help them out, turn on each other. A lot of Mexicans don't like blacks because I was talking to Mexicans. I said, why y'all don't like black people? He said, black people, we're quick to turn on each other. You know what I mean? He said, when a Mexican come in, like we in jail, and he showed me. He said, let's sit right here and watch. So they bring new people in. He said, watch this. When a Mexican come in, other Mexicans run to the door, help him with his bag. When a white guy come in, white people go out there, help him out, get him situated. When a black person come in, all the black people sit back and say, that nigga might be a snitch, or he might be touching kids. We criticize you before you come through the door. And he said, that's why I don't deal with black people. A lot of Mexicans don't like blacks because I was talking to Mexicans. I said, why y'all don't like black people? He said, black people, we're quick to turn on each other. You know what I mean? He said, when a Mexican come in, like we in jail, and he showed me. He said, let's sit right here and watch. So they bring new people in. He said, watch this. When a Mexican come in, other Mexicans run to the door, help him with his bag. When a white guy come in, white people go out there, help him out, get him situated. When a black person come in, all the black people sit back and say, that nigga might be a snitch, or he might be touching kids. We criticize you before you come through the door. And he said, that's why I don't deal with black people. A lot of Mexicans don't like blacks because I was talking to Mexicans. I said, why y'all don't?
Deuteronomy 28 verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. All praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And there's no God beside them. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit, and salutations to the elect whom the Lord hath given ears to hear. And I wanted to go into the precept of, was that Mark 10 and 31, I believe? Or this lesson is going to go into that precept, Salakia. See if we can find it. Right. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And the reason why I played this video was because this guy by the name of Woody, I don't really know too much about this guy, but apparently he's known. And the point he brought out of what you see, especially living amongst Israel, is that, well, trying to say Israel, I'm talking about you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Now, this well-known understanding that blacks and Hispanics, amongst the Hispanics, is more of a family, we get along with one another. Which, I'll say this, that's not necessarily the case. However, the so-called black, Haitian, and West Indian community, is so divided, especially the so-called blacks, which are the Judites. They're so divided that to them, the so-called Hispanics are more, family-oriented. All right? And you had it's always...
Like black people. He said black people, weird.
It's pretty much the elephant in the room, so to speak. But there's always a question of why. Right? Even this person, Mari, says, man, I just don't understand why. Let's see. Now they say it's always the exception to the rule. Nevertheless, the general rule, all right, at least in this life, is, again, as we just read, Deuteronomy 28 and 30 and 54, how the eye shall be evil towards thy brother. Now, the so-called Mexicans would be you Issacharites. And the Hebrew, the Mexicans would be known as Yashashkar, which meaning he is hired. And the so-called blacks are the Judites, which in the Hebrew means Yahawada, which meaning Yahweh thinks, or Yahweh praises. We are known as brothers. All right. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. As a matter of fact. As you see the name, the meaning. But these are the tribes: Judah, so-called Negroes; Benjamin, so-called West Indians; Levi, the so-called Haitians; Simeon, the so-called Dominicans; Zebulon, so-called Guatemalans, the Panamanians or the Central Americans; Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans; Manasseh, the so-called Cubans; Gad, the so-called North American Indians; Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians; Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians to the Chileans, and the Chileans; Asher, excluding the Argentinians and Chileans, would be the South Americans. And Issachar is the so-called Mexicans. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, Judah and Issachar, all right, or you could summarize it between the southern and the northern kingdom don't mess with each other. All right, and as you see, we are brothers. This is scriptural. As a matter of fact, let's see something. Genesis 35:23. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn; Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulon. Right? And as Judah on this side is last, right, statistically, and of course, as we see amongst one another, who's the most hated, who's the most effed up, who's the most incarcerated, who's the most looked down upon on all the tribes? The so-called black man. As a matter of fact, the so-called blacks among those tribes, let's say your so-called Afro, they would be known as an Afro-Latino, Afro-Colombiana, Afro-Mexicano, they're looked down upon. And there's no coincidence on that, right? Because that history, that history goes back to whatever so-called blacks being intermingled with them. All right. Now, as I read it, Deuteronomy 28, which that spells out the curses that would befall us because we didn't walk in the ways of the Lord. All right. Now, initially, Judah, all right, we'll go to that. Genesis chapter 49, verse 8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thy enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. So essentially, Judah, all right, because this is as it says in verse 1, Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you what shall befall thee in the last days. Now, according to Hebrews 1:1, or is it 1:2? It speaks on pretty much in the days of Yahushua, that was considered the last days. So how much more now, whereas that was 2,000 years ago. So we in the last days, and towards the end, all right, Judah shall once again be first. All right, as a matter of fact, it says, Judah's a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art going up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, meaning the rulership, nor a lawgiver but from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. All right. So as right now they are last, they're going to be the people shall be gathered through Judah. All right. Now, it's important to know that through Yahushai, all right, through his spirit coming on the earth, that's how Israel is going to be brought together. Which he himself is a Judite. He's the lawgiver. All right. And then he's going to put the spirit on Judah first and foremost to bring out this truth, bring out the understanding to our people, the understanding of this word to our people. This is Zechariah chapter 12. Verse 6. Well, I'll bring that, but let me actually jump to Salakia, bear with me. All right, Salakia, this is actually the precept I was looking for. Zechariah 9 and 12. Turn ye to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. Right? And essentially this is done through the word going out there. You can read that in Ezekiel the 37th chapter. Right? That entails the spirit of life entering back in to Israel. The two witnesses. Ezekiel 37 and couple that with Revelation 11. Revelation 11 and around like 11. So it says, even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up thy sons, O Sion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as a sword of a mighty man. Right? So this is essentially going to come in these last days. Right? As the Lord, again, you know, is going to get things started with Judah. All right? The Lord, first and foremost, got to push his word out through his men. All right? And then he's going to get physical. He's also going to allow his men with spiritual powers to get physical too. And the Lord shall be seen over them, and his hour shall go forth as lightning, and the Lord God shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. You know, and again, the scriptures say that the Lord shall destroy them with the spirit of his mouth, this truth, and then with the brightness of his coming. All right, so the word first and foremost, which again, as we just read, shall come through Judah and then Ephraim, and then, which that's the spirit of his mouth, and then the brightness of his coming, and then the physicality aspect of it. Hey, how the Lord is going to come and take these devils down. He's going to have his elect with him. Right? Which, of course, are the 12,000 of each tribe. This is Zechariah chapter 12. Verse 7. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. And that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of Yahweh before them. And it shall come to pass that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. All right. So again, there's the aspect of delivering or saving Israel, and then soon after destroying our enemies. All right. So Judah, then Israel, or southern, then northern. All right. And then Esau, Edom. All right. And that's how when you read the scriptures, like it says, judgment shall begin at the house of Israel first. You know, which, I mean, hell, the Lord been looking at us as far as these curses is concerned for going against him. But then the Lord is going to again have mercy on us. Like it says in Deuteronomy 32, when all these curses have befallen thee, all the curses and the blessings have befallen thee. Let me see. No, I'm sorry, 30. I always get that messed up. Deuteronomy 30. Right, again, going into the point of the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart. Deuteronomy 30 verse 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yahweh thy power have driven thee. Thou shalt return unto Yahweh thy power, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all nations whither Yahweh thy power have scattered thee. You know, and if I may add too, the scriptures are not contradictory. As a matter of fact, they're very, in a sense, a linear fashion. You know, when you find one topic, it's always that particular topic. You know, as we're reading about, you know, the rising of Israel, and then the destruction of the other nations. And will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yahweh thy power have scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Yahweh thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. Right? Which, real quick, let me look up that word fetch as while we at it. Oh wow! So look, it says acquire. That's heavy. Because in Deuteronomy 28, according to the curses, no man shall acquire us or buy us. You know, so first and foremost, the Lord is fetching us through this word. You know, it's calling out through the trumpet. All right, which that's heavy in itself because, you know, at the trumpet, you know, at the sound of the trumpet, you know, which we're blowing an alarm, blowing the alarm, which is his word. At the sound of that trumpet, the elect or Israel as a whole shall gather. You know, which the Israel today will be of the elect. You know, those are the chosen of salvation. It says, whether the Lord thy God have scattered thee, if any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy power gather thee, from thence will he fetch thee. Yahweh thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possess, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Yahweh thy power will circumcise thy heart and the heart of thy seed to love Yahweh thy power with all thy heart, all thy soul, and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. Right? And hey, this is good news. This is good news that according to 1 Thessalonians 1:6, that he's going to recompense tribulation unto those that trouble us. So with that, just a quick hit, shalom to the elect.